you guys, it's Karen, and I wanted to come and talk to you about the 5 things that I recommend for back pain. Back pain is something I mention here and there. I don't think I've ever done a video on it specifically. You know, like I said, I've mentioned it in how I deal with my pain videos and whatnot, but it's something that's really, I guess you could say, close to my heart, because my dad suffered really badly with back pain for a lot of his life, and he actually twisted his back while he was lifting something from a van, a pine unit or something, and injured his back. And he, paramedics came out and they had to lift him. He tried to get back into the van and he was stuck in the seat and he had to be lifted out. And ever since then, he didn't work and he really struggled with this back pain. A lot of it was definitely worse when he was feeling down, which is a whole kind of another thought process, if you like. But it was definitely worse when he was depressed. But when he was happy, it was much better. When he was with Eve, he barely mentioned his back after he got married, the last sort of year before he died. Anyway, it's really important to me because it's something that really bothered him. And what has happened to me in the last, I would say 6 months to a year, is my back has got really bad. I've always had back pain, and I've always dealt with it by using a hot water bottle or doing a couple of little physio exercises, and that's always helped. But in the last 6 months, it's got to a point where it can be unbearable. So I've had a couple of nights where it's just been so unbearable. I've had to get up and it's been like 3 o'clock in the morning and I've been tossing and turning and sleeping in different ways, and it's been awful. And now in the last kind of week or so, probably 3 to 4 weeks, I feel like, I was saying this to my mum, speaking to my birth mum, and I was saying to her that I actually could see me walking the way that she walks now, and she also has problems with her back pain, so I've got no chance, I suppose. And that is that when I get up, I feel like I'm bent over, and I need to straighten up, but it's actually really hard to straighten up. I'm pretty sure that this is, with me, it's age related, and it's one of those things where I haven't gone to the GP, and I keep thinking, I need to go to the GP, not because I think they'll have a solution, but just so that it's on record that it's something I use pain relief for, because things can get very complicated with having migraines and how much pain relief I can use and whatnot. But saying that, the tramadol that I take for my head I've taken that today for my migraine, but it isn't doing anything for my back. Let me get to the things. I need to put chapters on this so that you can skip to the important information. When I have these episodes of pain, I've of course been trying everything and to try and get rid of them. And I've found some of these things are the most effective. One of the things I'm recommending for you, I don't do. And I'll tell you, I'll start at that one actually, and I'll go backwards to end on the kind of most successful things. So one of the things I recommend for you is magnesium supplements. The other way that you can do it is you can get a magnesium spray, and that gets absorbed through the skin, or you can even get magnesium bath salts, normally Epsom salts. You can put in your bath and soak in a magnesium salt bath, and that also helps. But the reason I'm recommending magnesium supplements is because they act on the system in a similar way to diazepam and can help relax muscles if your muscles are spasming, So obviously, please remember, I'm not a doctor, and this is something that you need to make sure is appropriate for you. They always say check with a doctor. I don't think anybody's going to go to the doctor and say it's okay if I take a magnesium supplement, but I suppose that would be the recommended gold standard advice, For me, this is what I don't do this, but the reason I don't do this is because I get so much magnesium in my diet that I don't need to. And then I discovered that when I've had numerous recommendations for magnesium over the years for my migraines, and that's something I discovered fairly early on, that taking migraines can help. Taking magnesium for migraines can help. So I took magnesium supplements for a while, and I then happened to have a blood test that was checking minerals, and it showed that I had way too much magnesium in my system. And when I stopped and thought about it and looked into what foods and whatnot I eat and things that I drink, I'm already getting a lot of magnesium. I get a lot of magnesium because I eat dark chocolate every day. I have a couple of squares of dark chocolate that's got magnesium in it. I have or I was having, I don't anymore in case I give myself too much magnesium, I was having cacao in my morning chocolate shake that I have for breakfast. By the way, let me know if you want me to film that. I did film it years and years ago, but now I have loads of things added to it and it's still super delicious. But I was having cacao in that, or dark chocolate powder. I sometimes have a milky drink in the evening, which has got cacao in it, and that's got magnesium in it. I eat a lot of nuts. They have magnesium in it. I already get a lot of magnesium in what I eat, so I don't need to supplement, but it is something I recommend. I think it could help with a lot of things. The next thing on my list is a bit of an out there one, and it is to try pain reprocessing therapy. Pain reprocessing therapy is huge at the moment, and it is not, a lot of people think that it's just telling you it's all in your head, and that's not what it is. It's telling you that it's neurological and that you are feeling pain, and there are some tips and tricks you can do to overcome that pain. And then there's a little bit of therapy in it. It's a really interesting theory. There's a really good book by Dr. John Sarno called Healing Back Pain that sort of explains a lot of it. But there's also an app called Curable that I've used. I've done Curable for a year, and then I repurchased it. It was £59, I think, for the year. You don't have to buy an app. Like I said, you can buy this book. There's lots of different pain reprocessing videos out there as well, and these are things that I think it's worth trying. And I mentioned to my dad at the beginning, and I don't think I could have convinced my dad to listen to any of these or to read any of these books, to be honest with you. He would have been offended, and he would have thought I was telling him it's all in his head, and like I said, it's not. It's given you some tools to understand that sometimes your body is trying to tell you something, and it might be nothing to do with physical pain, but it's also given you tips and tricks, even if you have something seriously wrong with your back, as to how to control that pain, how to sort of calm down your panic about being in pain, and how to convince your mind to send signals to soothe the pain. Now, I have tried this for my migraine, and the problem with my migraine is a lot of my symptoms are not pain-based. And also I was so deep in the migraine that I think you have to be like an 8 or 9 out of 10 on the pain scale before you can use these techniques. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much more about it, other than I will link the books that I've read that talk about it, and the app. But what I found was the app, I think, did cure my bladder issue, just as a kind of side note, if you like. It didn't do anything for my migraine, but it did work on my bladder thing. I have not tried it for my back pain yet, but I am going to. I'm going to start doing it all again, going through the whole process, and using, like, there's sort of meditations you can listen to when you're in pain, that talk you through watching the pain. What's it called? Somatic tracking? It's called somatic tracking, and you sort of view the pain from a different, rather than trying to distract yourself, you actually focus on the pain. And there is a video that I watched about headaches, actually, that does work for headaches. And it's like some sort of voodoo, but it's just this guy, Kamal, I think his name is. And all he does, he never ever called it pain reprocessing. He just was like sort of advertising it as a magic trick, if you like. And he would say, where is your headache? What colour is your headache? What shape is your headache? And then he'd do that about 3 times. And the amount of comments there were saying, my headache's gone. But it's basically, I've learned now, years later, that's somatic tracking. So it's all really interesting, I think, anyway. And I think that's worth giving a try if you've got back pain. I think we're on to number 3. And again, I hope that you guys take this in the right way. Number 3 is to move. And again, I'm going to refer back to my dad. My dad was told to move when he had back pain, and we've all learned over the years that actually just laying in bed is not the best thing for your back, regardless of the injury. But when I used to say to Dad, have you tried going for a little walk? He would absolutely say, there's no way I can move. He'd be really annoyed. He'd be like, I'm in too much pain. And I do totally get it, because especially in the last few weeks, in fact, it's made me feel really guilty for not having, I feel like I did have empathy for him, but more empathy for him. I've now got sympathy for him, I guess you could say, because I've now got that sort of pain where I'm like, oh my God, this is agony to get up and start walking. However, I have noticed that once I start to do that, it takes a minute or so, but it does start to ease. And I've noticed that my pain is worse on the days where I have a migraine, which means that if I have a severe migraine, I'm not moving. I don't leave the house. I don't go to the shops. I'm not walking up and down the house doing housework. I'm not doing anything. That's when it gets really bad, especially if I have like 2 days in a row doing that. And so I have tried, if I can manage it, to sort of walk around the house, even if it's walk up and down the hall a little bit, walk across the living room a little bit, and it really does help. So I know that it's can sometimes seem counterproductive, counterintuitive, and you don't want to do it, but it is honestly worth a try. Like, just get up and see if you can walk for a little bit, and it does help. That was number 3, I think, wasn't it? And my next 2 are the things that have helped me the absolute most. Number 1 is number 1. And then this one, number 2, is KT tape. This is something that I have never used for my back, but you will have heard me talk about it before. This is a roll of strips that you just tear off. If you want to know how to use KT tape, you can just put KT tape and then whichever area you want to use it for into YouTube. So KT tape back, KT tape lower back, KT tape shoulder, knee, elbow, foot, whatever. I cannot rave about this enough. Like, I've used this on my elbow. I've got tennis elbow and golfer's elbow, even though I've played neither. But this is probably the Ehlers-Danlos. I've used it on my elbow and it is just such a relief. I've used it on my plantar fasciitis and it was a relief. I've used it on my knee. I've used it on my neck. I've used it on my shoulder. I've used it everywhere. I've used it on other people. I put it on my dad's back and he did say it helped. I've put it on Kev's back and it helped. I've put it on, where else did we put it on Kev? Maybe his knee? Or maybe it was his ankle, I don't know. Anyway, KT tape is brilliant. And just as I was leaving the NHS, for those of you that don't know, I worked in medical research for many years. And just before I was leaving, there was a study that had showed that using KT tape for 3 days does not only work for the 3 days that you've got it on, but it continues to work afterwards. I don't fully understand how KT tape works. I know part of it is it lifts the skin a little bit further away from the nerves, and so you're not as sensitive to the pain, but it does more than that, because the study, I was going to be part of the study actually, and for some reason I couldn't. I can't remember why, but you went in, you did weight training, and then they put this on wherever your injury was or wherever your soreness was, and then you went back in 3 days and did weight training again, and they had found that everybody had improved. So it was amazing. Anyway, this on your back will definitely help. I turned to this in these last few weeks. Like I said, I was like, this is ridiculous. My usual things are not helping. I need to put KT tape on. The only thing with it being on your back, same with your shoulder and neck, is you need a partner to do it, or you need somebody to do it. But like I said, I used to do it for my dad. So Kev has been putting on this just on my back, 2 strips along like that, along the base of my back. I've not got any on at the moment because it's a lot better since doing number 1. But I am going to ask him to put it on for the holiday. I'm going to take it on holiday with me. And I feel like if you're in so much pain, it just gives you that sort of, it's like you've got something supportive on. I know my dad used to wear a back brace for a while and he found that supportive. And it's just like that extra little bit of support. And you can straighten a little bit more, you know. So I think it's totally worth trying, and for any other aches and pains you may have that are kind of muscle joint related. The final one I have mentioned before, and I don't know why I hadn't thought about it until probably 2 weeks ago. I was like, why am I not using my TENS machine? Why am I not using my TENS machine? Because this is something I used before, on the rare occasion that my usual suspects and I wasn't using KT tape either, but heat used to be okay for me, and I'd rub Voltarol in my back, and those things worked. Moving around, putting Voltarol on my back, and heat was always the thing for me. But this time heat wasn't helping. It was helping and it was a comfort while I used it, but it wasn't helping like through the night and through the day. It wasn't helping permanently, if you know what I mean. It was just giving me some comfort when I sat with a bottle on it or whatever, and it was actually starting to make my back sore. My back was almost burnt, you know. So I tried this again, and this has been the thing that has worked, but I have needed to use it for an hour and a half. You can use it. I mean, my physio told me that she thought TENS was absolutely brilliant. That was when I was seeing her for, wasn't back pain, I think that was neck and shoulder pain. She was saying, by the way, you can use it for as long as you want. You can't overdose on using a TENS machine, and you need to use it for at least an hour. The funny thing was, my chiropractor told me not to use it. He didn't agree with it, but you know, he broke my ribs. So this one that I've got, you could put 4 pads on it if you wanted. I got this from Amazon. These are the pads that I use. You can use them smaller ones, or you can use 4, like I said, but I just use these 2. I put 1 on my lower back, either side of my spine. I put them like that, and then I use this for an hour and a half, because you put it on for an hour and then I put it on again for about half an hour. I've made myself a little carry pocket because I use this so much, and it just makes it easier to go to the loo. But sometimes I'll just have it and put these in my pocket, but you know, it's difficult unless you want to sit down for an hour and a half. This makes it possible for me to walk around as well, because it's sending signals. I can actually feel my back's hurting now. I'm going to put this on before I go to town. I haven't used this for about 3 or 4 days, so this is not, it's not a cure, but for these 3 or 4 days I haven't felt like I've needed to put my tape on, which is why I don't have tape on. I haven't felt like I've needed to use this TENS machine again. I have used heat a little bit. I had a water bottle last night, but I ended up not using it. Kev just made me one in case I needed it. But the night before, I was like, oh, my back's a bit sore. I lent on my water bottle, and that was enough for that night. But that seems to be the case. When I use this, it gives me a few days of not being in pain. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I would totally recommend it. It's, you know, one of the most inexpensive and non-drug things that you can do. I struggle with drugs because I'm only allowed to take paracetamol and tramadol, which is what I take for my migraines. I'm only allowed to take them on 15 days of the month, so 50% of the time, because of rebound headaches. And I can't take any NSAIDs, so I can't take aspirin, ibuprofen, diclofenac, that sort of thing. I can rub Voltaren gel in my back, and I have been doing that since not having the tape on. It helps a little bit, but not a huge amount. And I did try a diclofenac. I was getting desperate. I was in so much pain with my back. And I tried a diclofenac, and honestly, this was more successful than using diclofenac or any pain relief. This was the most effective out of all of it. Because like I said, even when I'm taking tramadol, like today, I can still feel a pain in my back. That's everything that I've got to tell you about, I think. I mean, always try heat. I probably should use ice, but for some reason it freaks me out, the thought of putting ice on my back. I'll put ice like on my knee. I'll put stuff on my head when I've got a headache, but just the thought of it makes me really cold, and I don't like the thought of it on my back. But that's probably worth trying. You know, take anti-inflammatories. Don't rest it, like exercise, but don't lift heavy things, and make sure that your posture's well. What else do I do though? I've got my foam roller, and physio is brilliant. You know, there are physio exercises that really work, but I'm not a physio, and I'm not going to get down and show you the exercises to do, because they might not be right for you. But I'm sure if you've got back pain, you may have been to the physio and got exercises, and they're really worth doing, you know. And if you've got lower back pain, have a look on Instagram and even TikTok, even if you're not into it, just have a look at back exercises, because there's so many people that have got dedicated channels to low back pain, and there's so many great exercises on there. Again though, be careful who you're watching, you know, and who's giving you these exercises. But that's everything. I really hope that these help you. Let us know in the comments if you try any of these and they help you, if you've tried them before and they've helped you. I haven't heard anybody else mention KT tape before. Honestly, I don't know why it's not talked about more, but it's obviously sold and is popular because it's not one of those things that was a fad. It appeared in Boots many, many years ago, and it's still sold in Boots, and sometimes it's even hard to get, and I have to get it from Amazon. So it is obviously popular, you know. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Let us know. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.